Hello, my name is Njål, and I like animation. Macross is known as, or Robotech Saga, is one such animation I recently watched, and I find it's kind of awesome. Even if it's a bit janky and clearly hand drawn, and the dub is slightly butchered, it's still a great show about love, war, robots in space. Immeasurable odds and culture shock, with a tiny dash of music involved. So be wary of spoilers. If you want to actually watch the show, you can find it on YouTube. That also includes Muspedia and all of the other ones. You see this guy called Macroll, was it? Marcel bought the rights, but he needed enough episodes, so he smushed them all three shows together and rewrote the story a little bit. And edited out a couple of parts to make it more palatable for sensible American audiences. So, Macross. Essence, it is a mecha show that is loosely rooted in hard sci-fi. As in, everything looks plausible, has a somewhat reasonable explanation, and follows mostly the rules of physics. Mostly. So, what is the plot? Well, a ship crash landed on Earth. Earthlings took the ship and retrofitted it over time to make their own super ship. A really, immense, impressive starcraft that also is a mecha. Yeah, they just had to make a starship mecha. So that's where the realism sort of takes a nosedive. Then you have these green aliens that is a warrior race made of clones that is incapable of repairing and replenish themselves. Is chasing after this ship in order to find the goo inside in order to keep going. So naturally, the first contact includes the ship being booby-trapped to shoot down the incoming enemy. And then the aliens decide to invade the city where the ship is stranded in order to capture it. This is the only reason the heroes are not blown to smithereens. The enemy alien commander want the ship and the McGooey Guffin inside. So they manage to somehow teleport into space, or folding as it's called, along with the whole city surrounding it and some shelters. So now you have a bustling city inside this capital ship. And now I finally know where StarCraft got the voice lines and the style for the commander of the battle cruiser. Also, yeah, since it's a mecha show, you have mechanical creatures and crafts like these weird jumping, these jumping bunnies. Kind of cool. And as you can see, there's a reason why Battle Attack had a bit of licensing issues. Somebody borrowed that exact design in order to make a mecha, and that did not go over well. So naturally, the Earthlings are completely outclassed, outnumbered, outgunned. Yet somehow, the heroes have mastered art of gun kata, can stand in the middle of combat and somehow not get shot at close range. And of course, enemy alien ships are kind of roughly organic and look a bit like Duke Pooh. And the commander is a giant, and despite the second in this day's advisor looking like an evil little gnome, none of them are really what you consider bad guys per se. They knew us as villains with a goal that doesn't understand what they're up against, and is trying to probe the heroes. That's the interesting thing. There's no defined bad guys per se. And more spoilers. Eventually, all of the bad guys get culture shocked after infiltrating, and then they decided, yeah, we like girls, we like music, we like having relationships, we like the good things in life. We don't only so far our only purpose in life has been war, and incapable of fixing the broken down stuff. And of course, Mecha. This is my favorite part of the franchise, though. You have Mecha that transform into airplanes. And you can see here how the style is really, it's shaded and really well animated and everything. And still, if it's a bit janky here and there with the framing and a bit experimental at some points. You can see that it's drawn by hand. And here you go, see? Mecha transform into an airplane. You also have a clever use of still images here and there, where you just have a big shot that is panning around. Yeah, this is such a classic trick. And of course, you have the worst part of the whole series, Min Mei. He's an aspiring artist, potential love interest in the love triangle, and she's also a bit dumb. Not the smartest character around. Of course, you have the enemy commander, who is as big as a mecha and can fight him single-handedly. And yes, in the combat, have beam spam. I don't know how anyone on Earth survived. And, since this classic animation, a lot of repeating frames. And you see they're trying to avoid hitting the ship. And you see it's just turn the rain of fire turns the building into mush. And of course, you then have more combat. Some of these framings are really awesome. You can see the hand, and here you can see the hand painted, the watercolor matte painting into action. And the layering, creating an awesome parallax effect. And yes, here is the most awesome character in the show, though.
We have a fix on where that bombardment is coming from?
A fleet of spaceships in lunar orbit.
Beyond the range of our missiles.
Captain.
Yes, oh really? Make it so. It's a trap. Yes, he's totally also Italian, and also very good at his job, smokes a pipe and wears an oversized hat just because he can. And his mecha likes to bounce around. It's a bit silly. And of course, you have the classic. Oh, lot of explosions and fire surrounding the craft, and nothing is happening. It's really because it's really just a lot of overlapping. Just a lot of repeating frames going both. And that's all you need sometimes. However, it does look a bit silly when it goes on for almost a minute and nothing happening. It becomes a white noise and a bit strange. You can see classical missile spam. mainstay of Macross is lots of missiles and improbable dodging skills and explosions. Oh, I just love the scene about how, yeah, that was totally a death cut. You see the generic defenders of Earth is just getting demolished, trashed, and torn to shreds. Still, the recipe is interesting. You see how, despite this being hand animated, they still have shading, they have gradients, and you can see they have several frames of frames of animation where things are going where, for example, when you're shooting, everything lights up. You can see here this wonderfully drawn fire. It's not a very high frame rate. That would be a pain, but still, it's just enough to just to show off the effect of something crashing and burning. Of course, you can see here these, naturally you have a bit of sizing here to show how big these aliens are, because inside here there is a giant man shooting missiles. You can sort of tell how many frames they have used, and uh, yes, it's an airplane mecha. I just love the concept. Of course, here is what I mean with improbable. For some reason, almost every shot misses. Almost. And then the arm falls off. And you have to do a mid-air rescue. While explosions are missing. As nobody's heard of proximity missiles. But you can see here how it's hand drawn and hand animated by the facial, by the face being. You can see how there are not any smears, but you can see here, for example, that this foot is over the other foot, and the eyes is just a black dot. It is almost blending together with the eye itself. Of course, you have the clever use of still frames where you can see he's trying to get up again and rush a face off. And here's what I mean with the whole firing. Just blowing the enemy to smithereens. And here to reduce speed, you can see how clever it really is set up. For example, this is just a really cool visual angle. And it just falls over. And you see how big the enemy actually is. And yes, they are after something called the microids. Essentially microscopic aliens compared to these people. So, yeah. Of course, there's a lot of space. There's a lot of weird shenanigans. A lot, the classic fun, the classic of gender, messing around with the gender roles, perceptions. what it would be like if a culture was made in warrior culture. So yeah, overall, I just love how this show is, how the show is framed. While animation can be a bit janky and the sequences and can be a bit nonsensical and odd, there are many greatly framed moments. So, for example, in this frame here, you can see how big the enemy is compared to the Earthling plane mecha. It is really great framing. It really brings in the dynamic of size. And even here you can see how big the man is. Man, the shock of, oh, it's a human. It looked like a human. Good thing the girl was passed out. And of course, the giant mecha ship takes off. There's some great smoke effects as well, with some dust scratching on top. I suppose I just took took a sponge and just did a dapped plastic in order to make that effect. Here you can see it still has basic shading and a lot of framing, and for what it is impressively consistent. And yeah, also transforming mecha. I just liked it. It's essentially an aircraft carrier that can fly. Aircraft carrier airplane, I mean. And of course, you have the clever use of repeating frames, getting stuck in space. And of course, you have a classical outro. What did I say? It's not a bad show for the ages it was made. And the plot is fairly enjoyable, even if it can be a bit nonsensical with some of the scenes and some of the action going on. And the main character is getting shot down quite a lot, to be frank. Yeah. I'm just gushing a bit about it, but I will not spoil it too much. Because you should watch it. It doesn't cost you anything, and if you want some love in your life, want to watch some cheesy 80s animation with some cheesy music, questionable voice acting, Macross, I mean Robotech, is the show just for you. I'm Joel, I'm signing out, and I have a Patreon. Like, follow, and subscribe.